Today we're looking at one of the strangest retro games I have ever played. Super 3D Noah's Ark. This shit is terrifying. Imagine a family-friendly first-person shooter released on the Super Nintendo in 1994, where you play as Noah, aka the Ark Builder guy, using a slingshot to feed animals so they don't get restless aboard the Ark. It's basically a biblical story, dressed in Wolfenstein 3D clothes, and it's as bizarre as it sounds. The game was released in 1994 by the unlicensed Christian game company called Wisdom Tree. Distributed in a very unusual way, the cartridge had to be piggybacked with another licensed NES game to bypass Nintendo's lockout chip. Rumors long circulated that ID Software gave Wisdom Tree the Wolfenstein 3D engine as revenge against Nintendo for making them censor their game. Though in reality, Wisdom Tree licensed a modified engine from ID through a contractor. The game was later ported to PC and eventually re-released on digital stores like Steam decades later. The game plays mostly identically to Wolfenstein 3D. You control Noah wandering through maze-like corridors. Instead of guns, you use a slingshot or equivalent that fires food like fruit pellets to put animals to sleep. I know that has a bad ring to it, but they are actually just sleeping. Instead of Nazis, the enemies are goats, sheep, lions, and other Ark animals who have become rowdy. Each level ends when you find the exit door, moving on to the next day of Noah's journey. The visual style is a copy of Wolfenstein: flat walls, repetitive textures, and blocky enemies. All animals are cartoonish but oddly unsettling when charging at you in narrow hallways. I wasn't prepared for the level of horror this game has to offer. Backgrounds are minimal with wooden textures to simulate the Ark's interior. The soundtrack is also weird with short looping tracks that don't have a first-person shooter feel at all. But hey, this is a biblical game after all. Sound effects are horrible too, from shooting to the weird animal noises. The game features 30 levels spread across 6 episodes, which each make up a day of the Ark's voyage. Early levels are simple, but the mazes quickly become confusing with locked doors, keys, and hidden passages. There are a lot of secrets in the game, as was the case with Wolfenstein. Animals are present in large numbers, and combat feels slow and inaccurate. The game can be beaten in a couple of hours, but the repetition makes it feel so much more longer. Like Wolfenstein, it encourages exploration, but the levels often feel like they were copy-pasted with only minor changes. The graphical look doesn't help with the repetition either. This is indeed an unlicensed oddity. It's the only known NES cartridge that required stacking another licensed game on top to work. As mentioned earlier, it is based on ID Software's Wolfenstein 3D tech, making it the only Bible game ever to be built on a mainstream FPS engine. For years, gamers speculated whether ID intentionally handed over the engine as a prank on Nintendo. Well, it was more of a revenge than a prank in the end. The game still frequently appears on the weirdest SNES games listed ever due to its mix of violent FPS mechanics and family-friendly biblical theme. Super 3 Noah's Ark stands out as one of the strangest mixture of religion and gaming. On one side, it's clearly just a Wolfenstein 3D in disguise with the animals instead of soldiers and fruit instead of guns. On the other hand, it reflects a sincere attempt by Wisdom Tree to create a Christian alternative to violent shooters at the time. Its legacy isn't really about gameplay polish, it's about the curiosity of seeing Noah running through 3D corridors feeding goats with a slingshot. Some people remember it as a childhood oddity, others see it as a cult curiosity, and collectors prize the original SNES cartridge for its rarity. Whether you view it as a weird reskin, a bizarre footnote in Nintendo's history, or a piece of gaming folklore, one thing is certain: Super 3D Noah's Ark is unlike anything else on the SNES. When playing the game, I felt the urge to change that game's soundtrack to a horror game background music, and voila, it would become a horrendous survival horror game. Maybe we will do that someday at the Games for Rainy Days. Now it's time to put this animal back to sleep. See you next time.